Rolling. Action.
What conventions are used in your horror film?
In our finished production, we conform to some of the popular conventions within the genre of our choice. The first conventions that we conform to is having a final girl. Many slasher horror films, such as The Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween, which are both slashers, focus on a protagonist that is strong and independent, as they don't hide from the antagonist, but they rather try to defeat him. In our final production, the character of Alice is strong as she conforms the killer, and she doesn't sense any danger up until the end of the opening. However, when the story develops, she deals with the situation in a strong and independent way, for also confronting the antagonist, and instead of relying on the police to take care of it, she herself tries to resolve the situation.
Are there any other conventions that your film confronts to?
Another convention that we conform to is having the film being set in a small town, which makes it seem isolated, and therefore the protagonist is unable to get away from the killer and is forced to confront him. Furthermore, the fact that it's set in a small town makes it more relatable for certain people who are living in similar places, which will make them feel, which will then make it more scary for them because it's so similar to the place they live in. Those who don't live in a town may be more likely to pick up on the fact that it's an isolated location, and will be affected more by the fact that protagonist has nowhere to run to rather than a place where they live. What conventions does your film challenge?
Our final production challenges the convention that the final girl survives. This is seen in many horror films such as the Scream films or the Halloween films, where the protagonist survives and is left at the end while all people around her die. In our film, the protagonist goes through a series of events where people around her do die. However, at the end, when she thinks that she has survived and she has killed the antagonist, she gets sad with him and he takes her life away. This challenge convention, however, can be seen in other horror films, such as The Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where Nancy gets killed by Freddy, and in I Still Know We Did Last Summer, where Julie gets killed by Ben Wallace. This challenges the convention because the final girl is not supposed to die, as she is the final girl. However, by putting the twist to the ending, the film looks much more original, since it gives a new look to a horror film, and the audience is left shocked as they were not expecting the ending. Okay. How did you challenge the form of traditional slasher films?
The lighting of our opening is dark to convey that it is set during late evening, which makes it appear more sinister because the killer is able to hide in the dark. This did not challenge traditional slasher films because in all of the slasher films, this convention is used to give a threatening or evil atmosphere that would make the audience feel scared. Our opening is set in a house, which does not challenge traditional slasher films such as Scream or Halloween. However, in both the films mentioned, the girls are killed in the beginning of the film to establish the murderer and what he is capable of. In contrast, in our opening, the girl is not killed and is in fact established to be the protagonist, which does challenge traditional slasher films. Camera movements, such as tracking shots, are used to show that the protagonist is checking the house and is being cautious because she knows his personality and is perhaps slightly scared of him. This does not challenge traditional slasher films because this type of camera movement is used in other films to convey a similar effect. Also, a tilt from a phone to the protagonist is used to show that the phone call is significant because it is the catalyst for the antagonist to go after her. And also, at the end of the opening, it suggests the beginning of her being hunted by the antagonist. This type of shot, for the most part, does not challenge more modern slashers such as Scream and Unfriended, because more modern and developed technology such as phones is what sets up the whole situation. However, this would challenge older slasher films such as Nightmare on Elm Street. Editing from the protagonist's annoyed face to the phone ringing shows that she is impatient which gives an insight into her tough and independent personality. This foreshadows that her almost arrogant personality and her resolving problems independently gets her killed in the end, which makes it the seemingly positive personality trait a flaw. This does not challenge slasher films because the protagonist is a strong female. However, the protagonist in our opening is portrayed as being more annoyed rather than being scared, which does challenge the convention that the females in horror films are innocent and have fragile feelings. Also, editing from the shot of the antagonist's point of view, which is from the outside of the house, to the long shot of her looking through the window where the antagonist should be, shows that he is almost invisible and that Alice will not see him coming. And it also is a dramatic irony because the audience knows that the killer is watching her, but the protagonist is clueless, which further conveys that Alice is naive and therefore unable to protect herself. This does not challenge most of the slasher films because point of view shots are used fairly often, such as in Halloween, to show that the character that is being attacked or stalked is vulnerable and defenseless. Shots of her picking up the phone marks the beginning of the end for the protagonist, and having a picture of her family in the background shows that she will be leaving people behind, which then makes the audience feel sympathy for her and thus will want her to survive. This challenges traditional slasher films because they don't really portray characters and other slashers as being close to their families, whereas ours does. Also, a close-up of just her face will show the audience that the protagonist's facial expressions. Also, a close-up of just her face will show the audience protagonist's facial expressions and therefore her emotions, which will make the audience feel sympathy for her because they will be able to see that she is worried. Also, the fact that it's just her and no one else in the shot shows that she is alone and again will make the audience feel sympathy because she has no one to protect her. This does not challenge traditional slasher movies because such shots are used to show characters' emotions and thus make the audience feel a certain way about a certain character.